welcome to today's live stream. So excited that you are here. All right, so hopefully it decides to actually stream. We will find out because sometimes it doesn't. So, all right, I'm going to throw it into the Discord. If you're watching this afterward, you can just skip this whole part because it's kind of boring. But anyway, I'm going to throw at everyone. Also, if you're not in the Discord, you're watching this preemptively or after the fact, you should 100% join the Discord because it's super cool. Okay, we're live. Okay, well, let's see if that's the truth. Okay. All right. So we have a lot of questions to go over today. There was a lot of people who did lots of questions. Okay, I'm going into my own live and I cannot see that it is live. But hopefully other people can see that. Hey, Tobias, welcome. Can you see that I'm actually streaming? Because it's not saying that I'm streaming when I'm on my own one, which is weird. I'm like trying to see it's not doing anything, but hopefully it actually is. We'll find out. I'm gonna take out my earphone because I was gonna try to test the, what do you call it? I was gonna try to test the audio, but yeah, I don't know. Is it? I'm gonna check. Okay, sweet. So it is live for all y'all. I don't know what's going on then. Well, whatever. Let's just start. Okay, welcome. We are here. And we are going to just hang out and talk about ADHD nutrition and anything else that you want to talk about. So welcome. Again, if you are not in the Discord, you 100% should, and that is all the way in the description. So go join that because I like hanging out with y'all. All right, so there is a lot of questions that we have, and honestly, I don't even remember what I was going to do first because I have that in the description. So let's just start off with that. Obviously, my mind's kind of frazzled right now, so if you are here, please say hi, because I want to say hi to you, obviously, because it's kind of like not as fun talking to myself. But as we go through this, if you have any questions, make sure that you are throwing them into the comment section as well, because I do prioritize whatever y'all are wanting questions on, because you are here and you are hanging out with me, and so that means you're cooler. Okay, the first question that I had was, do omega-3s help with ADHD / do they actually help with inflammation? So, yeah, I know that is kind of a buzzword, right? The whole like omega-3s inflammation thing, especially with seed oils nowadays. I have some hot takes on seed oils. I don't know if anyone cares to hear them, but now you get to hear them. So, honestly, I would say that in general, seed oils are fine. Actually, some seed oils have better nutrient profiles than what we think. So for example, canola oil has a really, really good omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. This is getting higher level though. Personally, I only use avocado oil, but this was also not the question. That was just my brain's thoughts here. Anyway, yes, omega-3s actually do help with inflammation. So there's a lot of different types of omega-3s. The biggest one is ALA omega-3. Those are the ones that we get in plants, and also a lot of beef products, lots of other meat products. And those are the ones that help inflammation in our bodies. So omega-3s, they improve our inflammation in a lot of different ways. The main way is through something called an inflammatory cytokine. So essentially, it's kind of confusing, but they help regulate these things and they reduce inflammation in that way. The most important part here is the EPA / DHA omega-3s. Our bodies can actually create those, which is super cool, because a lot of people don't like fish. Let's be honest. If you like fish, throw that in the comments. What's your favorite fish? Because I hated fish for almost my entire life. And I finally decided to try fish again within the last 2 years. And I actually do not mind it anymore. So I currently eat like salmon or tilapia. Those two are my top ones, or shrimp. I like those ones. But they all contain what are the EPA or DHA omega-3s. And I'm not going to try to say the longer words for them because they're really long and I'm going to butcher them. But those are the main ones. And they help your brain. So you don't have to eat fish. It's just the fastest way to get those ones that help your brain. So the ALA ones, the ones that come from your plants, they can get turned into the EPA and DHA ones. And that's just a process that happens in your body. It's about 7% of your ALA can get turned into that, depending on how good your body is at doing that. The fun fact is that the more ALA omega-3s you eat, so okay, I should probably give some actual examples. Beef has a good ALA amount, chia seed and flaxseed, really any sort of seed, if you can just eat seeds and nuts, those really good for your inflammation. Anyway, why do we care? We care because people with ADHD have inflammation, and it's actually a newer theory. The most recent one came out in 2024 that synthesized some of this information, and it's actually not even a very, like, it's research backed, but it's just like there's not a lot of good research, and we need more about how ADHD is neuroinflammation. Is really interesting stuff, and I do want to talk about it sometime, but it's just the science is so new and it's so hard to know for sure like what's actually going on. But in general, we do know that inflammation exacerbates ADHD symptoms. So, but yeah, also, hey Matthew, welcome back. I'm so happy to hear you. And well, I can't hear you, but I can see you. Yeah, fresh salmon. Oh, tuna. Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. I forgot about tuna. I do eat tuna. Anyway, all of those are really, really helpful for our brains. And that is exactly why, okay, actually, yeah, if you're here, you get to learn more about my ebook, The ADHD Diet. I talk about how ideally we are eating at least one sort of like fish food every single week. And this is because of the omega-3s that help the brain to reduce your inflammation. Now, do actual supplements work? Depending on what like you've seen of me, you will probably already know the answer. But the answer is that no, actually omega-3 supplements don't help your ADHD, which is kind of weird to think about, right? Like you'd think that since people with ADHD metabolize omega-3s differently, I did not talk about that. We do metabolize omega-3s differently. We actually just got a study on this. It was really fascinating. I put it on my blog. If you haven't read it yet, you 100% should, because it's fascinating. But people with ADHD metabolize omega-3s differently. We also metabolize protein differently. And so we just need to have more of it. Which, yay, protein. I don't know. I find protein annoying sometimes. Gotta be honest. So if any of y'all have fun protein ideas, I've been struggling lately. And I know like this is literally my job. But my job is more the research, so it's not the practical aspect. I am okay at the practical aspect for other people, but honestly, sometimes for myself, it's not easy. Yeah, I don't know. Those are my feelings about omega-3s. So why don't omega-3 supplements work? We don't know exactly, but a big reason that I think why it doesn't work is because our supplement industry sucks, like horribly. Like it sucks so bad. There's no real regulations, and yeah, it just, I don't know. So most of the omega-3 supplements that we get are actually rancid by the time we are actually consuming them, and so the antioxidant part of the omega-3s is actually doing the opposite because we're adding oxidative things to our brain, and so it's like you're actually paying to make your brain worse. That's why I think that omega-3 supplements don't work. But if you do like supplementation, just make sure that you are getting one that has like an extra virgin olive oil. We do have research studies that's saying if you have one that's both olive oil and the fish oil together, it actually can help in general with improving your omegas. So keep that in mind, I guess. Bias, yeah, amino acids, protein, so wide range. Yes, it is. In general, I was just talking about most proteins. But for the metabolism of proteins, is that what you were talking about? Because it's actually kind of complicated. I need to make a more in-depth video about protein metabolism in people with ADHD for those people who are pretty nerdy about it like me. Interestingly, it also depends on what type of ADHD you have, if it's hyperactive type, combined type, or inattentive type. We see differences in metabolism of different amino acids, and it's just all very complicated. But I think it's fascinating. So what I'm actually doing, I'm working on creating a course for people who are mental health professionals or doctors or people who just want to get more information about metabolism and ADHD. And that's going to be a large part of it. What is the science about metabolism and ADHD? It's going to be really fun. Anyway, yeah. If you have any suggestions, Matt, I'd love to hear. I hope that's okay to call you that. Because yes, after living with chicken and rice for so many years, that sounds like my last few days. Yup. Because it's so easy just to eat that. Chicken and rice. Anyway, yeah. But the nice thing about metabolism and protein is that we can make it super complicated, but we don't have to. The thing is just to eat more protein. That's really it, because as long as we're getting protein from a variety of sources and we're eating more than it's typically recommended, that's all we need to do. So, yeah. Okay, got a little off track there. Let's see. What was the next question? Are there any superfoods for ADHD? Okay. I don't know how to say this without sounding like one of those wellness people, but I actually do think that superfoods exist. I know it's kind of cool to say, in the more science nutrition side, that superfoods don't exist and that's just a made up thing, but honestly, they kind of do. There are some foods that are just really, really packed with nutrients compared to other foods. I don't know. That's my take on superfoods, but there are quite a few ones. And I'm in the process of creating a series where we talk about different nutrients and different foods. So I just put out the one on blueberries and how that is really helpful for ADHD because it has specific antioxidants that help cross the blood-brain barrier to improve specifically memory and focus and attention. And so I would count that as a superfood, so yeah, superfoods, that's one. Blueberries, I would consider that one. Salmon, that is honestly, I also consider a superfood because it specifically for ADHD, because it hits all of the nutrients that we're missing for ADHD, or the ones that we tend to be more low in / the ones that we tend to use up more to create the neurotransmitters. So it contains things like magnesium and zinc and B6, and I think it has B9 in it. Don't quote me on that one, but I know it has B6. And all of those are crazy important for ADHD. So I'd say that's another one. Pistachio. That's actually one that I just finished recording and I need to edit, but I honestly have been editing all day the last few days. So I just finished editing my podcast episode with a person who is behind the world's most mental health research supplement, and it's so cool. And I'm almost done editing it, and I almost missed doing this live stream because I was editing and I was in the zone. So, yes, I did have an alarm, thank goodness. But yeah. And another one, Tobias. So actually I would consider whey protein supplements as kind of a superfood for ADHD. Specifically because we have research showing that actually I'm pretty sure it was exactly that whey protein supplement that helped ADHD. So that's pretty cool. I'd have to pick up the correct paper and actually show you that one. And I'll probably talk about it in one of my more in-depth protein videos. But yeah, those are great for ADHD. I just I don't like paying for protein supplements because they can get expensive. That's my qualm with protein as well. Like, why does it have to be so expensive? Yeah, that's how I feel. But anyway, other foods that I consider being really helpful for ADHD is cocoa powder. Okay? Hear me out. It has some caffeine in it, which, and then it also has some theobromine in it, and both of those balance each other out to not give you a lot of the jitters and more of the actual focus. So, yes, I would consider that one as a superfood because it also has been studied to improve mood and focus, and specifically attention focus. I don't think they've studied task switching, but yeah, cocoa powder. I have it every single day. It's that good. Sorry if you don't like chocolate. If you don't like chocolate, I hope that maybe one day you'll love it. My Opa, so he does not like chocolate at all. And then one of my brother-in-laws doesn't like chocolate either. So, yeah. Anyway, kind of going back, I wish I had a recommendation for protein powder, but because I don't buy any protein powder, I don't. So if you have any recommendations for protein powder and you want to share them, feel free to throw them into the comments as well, because I don't know, I think that'll help other people. Okay, that was basically the main superfoods. If you have specific questions on different foods for ADHD, I can add them to my wheel that I'm going to be spinning at the end of every different, like, smaller episode, and then you might get picked to see what that is going to be for ADHD. Like, what are all the cool things for it? Okay, anyway, the next question I have, unless any of y'all had any in the live stream stuff, is iron deficiency linked with ADHD, like genetically? Yes. Unfortunately, yes. So I'm not going to say the exact gene because I'm going to butcher it. Honestly, a lot of these things are complicated to say, but there is one that regulates how our brain metabolizes iron, okay? And that is associated with ADHD, which is not good because iron is actually something that increases the activity of an enzyme called tyrosine hydroxylase. And what that is an enzyme that turns tyrosine, which is the protein amino acid, into something called L-DOPA, which also I think is really funny. L-DOPA, that sounds like like a drug person. Anyway, it is a drug. It's also a drug, actually. L-DOPA is a drug, but that is not for ADHD. It is for, I'm trying to remember what, I think it's, nope, I'm not going to say it because I don't remember, and I'm not a pharmacist anyway. So I actually worked with a lot of people who were, I guess they are still disabled, and I got to learn a lot about medication in those 3 years. It was a lot of medication. We gave so I do know a lot about medication now. But yeah, iron deficiency linked with ADHD, and it's not good because we need iron to create our dopamine, and we also need iron to create our serotonin. Also, we need iron just in general. So yeah, iron is really important, and we do metabolize it differently. Really interesting. This is why I want to do a course on metabolism, because it's my hyperfixation, and I think it's really, really cool. And yeah, people who go on methylphenidate, we have some evidence showing that it actually improves their iron levels without changing their diet. Isn't that really cool? So like, and we see that with a lot of other nutrients too, which basically to me proves that people with ADHD have differences in how we metabolize nutrients, a lot of different nutrients. And going on medication actually changes how our body uses these it's crazy how it works. And we honestly don't really know how it works, but we know that it does. just isn't that really cool? And I also have heard from a lot of women specifically who have low iron and then they go on an ADHD stimulant and then their iron levels normalize. Isn't that just like my mind? It blows. I'm one of the lucky females who does not have an iron deficiency ever. I actually tend to have pretty high iron. So lucky me. But yeah, going back to protein, Matthew, yes, protein pancakes. I have been loving those. So I go to Aldi because it's cheap and I like cheap and it's not overwhelming. I think a lot of grocery stores can be really overstimulating for me. And so Aldi is where it's at. And they have this protein mix that like is for pancakes and it's wonderful. I also add flaxseed to it to give myself more fiber too. And like you don't taste the ground flaxseed. And then like flaxseed is also just full of omega-3s that we just talked about to help with inflammation. So would recommend. Okay. So let's see. Amanda, I'm just going to read off because I cannot multitask. You had an iron infusion as you were severely anemic but didn't see any results or feel better. Yeah. Yep. It's probably because your body does metabolize iron differently, which is crazy, right? I don't know. It's just absolutely fascinating. And then I don't know. I wonder if you ever would go on a stimulant, and if you do, and you've like actually changed like how your body uses iron, that could be super cool. I'm sure you've probably heard to make sure that you're eating a lot of vitamin C with your iron to improve the absorption, but if you haven't, just a note for ya to make sure you're eating vitamin C. But vitamin C is another one that's really important for ADHD. So to create dopamine, the limiting factor there is B6, which a lot of us are low in B6. But to turn dopamine into norepinephrine, the limiting factor there is actually vitamin C. So not only is it going to help with your ADHD in general because you're getting more norepinephrine, it's also potentially going to help your iron levels, hopefully. So, yeah. Sucks though. Iron deficiency in general is not something to, I don't know, that just sucks. My younger sister has it. She faints a lot. I also faint a lot, but that's because I don't faint. I've only fainted twice. But that's because I have POTS, which is, it feels a little similar to iron deficiency, is what I've heard. But, yeah, not fun. I do not like POTS, have to be honest. So, yeah, we'll find out. But yeah, anyway, yeah, Amanda, if you actually let me know how that goes, I'd be super curious. Like, seriously, I would love to hear about that. So, okay, what is the next one? Okay, do phthalates affect ADHD? I hate that word so much because it just sucks to say. It's just so hard. It's like PHTH. Why did someone create a word like that? I don't know. Okay, anyway, there are only 2 or 3, there might be 3 now. There just was another study that came out. Like chemicals that we add to things that have been associated with ADHD. And phthalates is one of them. But it's only associated in young boys, not specifically with girls with ADHD. So I'd say if you are worried about the phthalates, again, I hate that word. I wish I could like type on the screen, but it's like PHTHALATES. Yes, there we go. So if you don't know what that is, let me just tell you what that is. It is a chemical that's found in mostly plastics, and then also some like children's toys, which are the plastics, and then mostly like black plastics. So if you were getting like a chicken that has like, I don't know, like the roasted rotisserie chicken, usually they come in that black plastic. Phthalates are usually in that one. And then also in a lot of beauty products, so mascara tends to have it, eyeliner. So does exposure to it worsen your ADHD, honestly, I don't know. We don't know. The science doesn't know. It can potentially, in little boys with ADHD, increase their hyperactivity. Actually, it wasn't their hyperactivity, it was their aggression. So that's also something. Yeah. So I don't know. I wish I could tell you more, but that's all we know. In general, I'm a person who likes to err more on the safe side. So do I personally avoid things like plastics? Yes. Also because we have no idea what microplastics are doing to us. We just know that they're in everything and everywhere, and limiting our exposure seems to be a good idea. And yeah. Also, heat in general can increase the exposure that we have. So if you do have things with more black plastic, consider just not heating it up. So for me, I don't use black spatulas. I just use metal spatulas, or I do not ever microwave my food in plastic, ever. I don't do that. I always use a glass or ceramic container. Obviously make sure it is microwave safe. Fun fact about me, I grew up my entire life, except for the last 8 years, so not my entire life, without a microwave. And so when I went to college, I did not know how to use a microwave. It was a rough experience. I almost burned it, so I put metal in it. It was not good. And I learned not to do that. So that is my experience with microwaves. But now microwaves are my godsend, and I don't know if I can live without one. So yes. Amanda, going back to your question there, take a vitamin C supplement daily so your iron is absorbed better throughout the day, or should you take it at the same time as you eat a meal? I would obviously say to talk to your physician if you have a physician that you can talk to about this, or a pharmacist. But if you're talking about how to best absorb anything for your iron, and when you take vitamin C, probably just take it with your meals. Yeah. Especially if you're having a meal that's more iron dense. So if you're eating a meal with a lot of those dark green vegetables, or if you're eating a meal with more meat, especially those redder meats, then yeah, if you really want to improve your absorption, there you go. Otherwise, make it simpler for yourself and just eat an orange, or throw some lime with your tacos or something like that. It's really easy to add vitamin C. A lot of red bell peppers also contain the most vitamin C out of all of the different things. They contain more, I am 99% sure here, than oranges. So, fun fact. But oranges, this is a different tangent. Oranges can actually reduce your depression risk. Isn't that super cool? There's a specific thing in oranges that goes to your gut, and it connects, and it has been researched to improve the specific type of gut bacteria that is associated with improvements with depression. So it's super cool. That's why I tend to have an orange or orange juice almost every single day, because I am very prone to depression, unfortunately. So yeah, but yeah, red bell peppers. Also strawberries. I consume a lot of strawberries, and they also have a lot of vitamin C, and they are in season. If you're in the northern hemisphere, I don't know where you are, but if you're in the northern hemisphere, they are pretty much in season. Okay, let's see what the next question was. So that was phthalates. Okay, are there any books I recommend for ADHD? Okay, so obviously I'm gonna say I recommend my stuff, and that's all just in my store if you're curious about how you can actually help your ADHD with nutrition and, I don't know, not have any of that guesswork. But this is my favorite ADHD book. Give me 1 second here. It's called the ADHD User's Manual. It is by my, actually one of my best friends. His name is Ludovico. He is a neuroscientist who has ADHD, late diagnosed ADHD, and he researches ADHD, and he talks about it, and he's just so good. And it has basically everything you actually ever need to know about ADHD. Literally. So I actually use this as a reference book because of how just in-depth it is. Obviously, it doesn't have a lot of nutrition stuff because that's like not his expertise. His is more just like the brain and other aspects of ADHD. But for example, he has a chapter on ADHD and burnout, which I have been reading and rereading pretty religiously because I continue to go in that spiral. Even though I know exactly what to do, I don't know. It's so hard. Also, my feelings about burnout and ADHD is that I'm pretty sure most of my depression is just ADHD burnout because I feel like I can do everything, right? And so I do everything and it doesn't feel like I'm like doing too much, but then it turns out I am for some reason, even though it feels like it shouldn't feel that way. That was a lot of feel. What I've learned is I cannot trust my feelings, even though that's how I operate in the world. Anyway. I kind of hate that though. Like, I totally get where people say that ADHD is a superpower, and I think that being positive with ADHD is a good thing, right? But like, I would love to not burn out so fast and so hard. And as much as I can be aware of this, then like, it doesn't matter still. Like, even though I have the knowledge, it doesn't usually transfer into practice because, like, my brain feels like it's fine. And then all of a sudden, it's not fine. Yeah, I think that's the issue. And then the other issue, Matt, yeah, literally same. I get bored with things super easily, and then I want to quit. And then I want to reinvent my entire life. And you can't do that. You can't do that. Gotta be honest, that is part of why, though, I stopped posting on Instagram for a while. Like, if you are part of the Discord, you know that we're doing a whole rebrand, and it's really, really fun, and we love this. Also, it's a lot of work, and I totally underestimated how much time I should have given myself, but whatever. It's gonna be fine and it's gonna be great. But anyway, yeah, it was just getting boring. Instagram, I don't know. And I really wanted to focus more on making longer content because that is what helps me feel like I'm contributing more, if that makes sense. Because I don't know, people are going to get mad at me no matter what I say. Like, if I don't say things exactly the way they want it to be. Or if I just, like, don't explain things in depth. But then when I explain things in depth, they're like, fuck you for telling me all of this. Also, I can't sit through this because I have ADHD, so you are not an expert. Like, there's no winning, so may as well just do what I actually want to do, right? So that's been my feelings lately. So I guess this was a little bit of a rant session. So, whoops. But anyway, I'm slowly starting to learn what I actually want. But yeah. Anyway, okay. Let's get into a question that a lot of people have been wondering about. And it's a really, really big question. And that is, does saffron actually help ADHD? Okay. I need to do a real video on this one because it's actually super complicated. Because I also want to get in depth about how saffron actually works in our brains, like all the different pathways and like what are the specific chemicals that helps with things, like why does it seem to work for a lot of people. The biggest thing here is that, yes, what we see in the research is that saffron works almost as well as methylphenidate. So they only have compared it against methylphenidate, probably because that's the only one that we tend to research for some reason. Methylphenidate just is the most researched ADHD medication. So, yes, it does seem to work. The issue, though, and this is why I want people to be cautious when they want to think about getting saffron, is that it has a lot of ethical concerns with it, because to create saffron, you have to grow it, and it's a very labor-intensive crop. So it actually, you only get like 2 or 3 fronds of saffron per bulb, and you have to pick them up individually. You can't just use a machine. And then it also can, like, if you harvest it for too many times, it could actually harm the soil and like just the plant in general. And so there's that aspect to it of you have to make sure it's ethical. I mean, you don't have to, but to me, I feel like I would have to find an ethical one. The other aspect is that you never actually know for sure if the saffron is what you're getting, because supplements are unregulated. You know, like, at least in the States, because that's where I'm from. And so you don't know for sure if what they're saying is in there is actually saffron. You just hope for the best, right? Hopefully it's good, and you don't know for sure. So that's the two things with it. It is, you don't know for sure if you're going to get the actual amount that you're needing. And then the other thing is you don't know if it was ethically sourced, because it's really hard to know that nowadays. And I don't know. That's my feelings about saffron in general. I think it is a really good potential, like, alternate treatment. The other thing to know about saffron is, okay, actually, before I get into that part, I'm sure y'all are wondering about doses. It is 30 milligrams that's been studied. So either 15 milligrams in the morning, 15 at night, or 30 at night. We usually have saffron at night because of it having effects on your sleep. So, yeah. Okay, what was I going to get into, though? The research for saffron. So, yes, when we look at the research, we don't have a lot of research, and honestly, some of them aren't using very good estimates of ADHD, but there is one that I thought was a pretty good study, and yeah, people with ADHD had the same results for executive functioning in general, improvements. What they found was people with ADHD, if they had the methylphenidate, they improved more with their inattention symptoms, but then if they used the saffron, they improved more with their hyperactivity symptoms. And then there was another study that had both of them combined, and then it was more effective than just methylphenidate. And that's really interesting. The last thing here, though, is that people with ADHD who took the saffron had the same to a little bit more negative side effects having the saffron. So that's the other thing too. Just because something's natural, right? Supernatural, it's literally just a plant, doesn't mean that it's without side effects. And so if you're looking to reduce your side effects, honestly, saffron is not going to do that. So keep that in mind as well as you're thinking through all of this. It has the same amount of side effects and the same types of side effects. So yeah, it's just a really complicated conversation, and I don't think there's a really good answer yet. And I'm very concerned about the future of saffron because it has been associated with really good improvements in ADHD and anxiety and sleep and depression. And it's just, honestly, I think it's an amazing herb. But there's a lot of ethical things with it too. So, rhodiola. Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. We have no research on rhodiola and ADHD, but personally, I do like it. I think it's a great one. Do not use it with antidepressants if you have an antidepressant, specifically SSRIs. I don't know if there's interactions with other types of antidepressants, but I think it's a great herb. I love it, but it does interact with a lot of different things. And it also doesn't have a ton of research. Like I said, it has no research for ADHD, but it has some good stuff for depression. I like herbs a lot. You can usually ask me almost anything about herbs, and I probably will know, potentially. We'll find out. But yeah. Yeah, like you said there, you can't take much at all, if anything, because of the serotonin syndrome. That's, yeah, exactly why I was saying don't if you have an SSRI. So, okay. Are there any other supplements that can actually help with ADHD? So I do have a whole sheet of the top 5 supplements for ADHD according to the research. Saffron is at the top of that list, and if you want to learn more about the other ones and the specific dosages, the specific research, that is in my store. Again, all of that is in my description. But besides saffron, are there any other supplements that actually help ADHD? The biggest thing is it kind of depends on what your specific nutrient levels are, okay? So if you're not deficient in something, it's not going to help you, okay? I mean, it might, right? Because we have limited knowledge about how different things are metabolized in specific bodies, especially based on even your ethnicity or your race. We don't know for sure. That being said, I'd say vitamin D is a relatively good one. That one has been pretty well documented to help, specifically if you have a deficiency with your ADHD symptoms. So that one's a pretty good option. Is there any others that I want to share? Potentially zinc. Zinc seems to be kind of helpful. We have no research on magnesium and ADHD. We have research on a magnesium plus calcium plus B6 supplement, and that seemed to help with ADHD, and that was interesting. So yeah, coenzyme Q10. We don't have any actual research on that one and improving ADHD. I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, I saw there was a study that is it was a protocol, so that means they haven't done the study yet, but it was just a protocol for it. So I don't know if it's gonna help you, but I mean it's a good thing to consume, right? I need to brush up on it right now in my brain, but yeah, it helps, especially if you have cholesterol issues. A lot of people with ADHD have cholesterol issues, so it could potentially help with that. It works as an antioxidant as well, and people with ADHD, obviously we need more antioxidants. If you haven't heard that from me yet, I don't know where you've been, but people with ADHD, we just use antioxidants differently in our bodies. Even though we consume the same amounts, we still have worse levels of antioxidants in our bodies. So we just need to be eating more because our body's either using them up more or they're our body doesn't know how to use it very well. So yeah, definitely consume more antioxidants in general, but coenzyme Q10 that's a good one, I'd say, in general, just to make sure you're consuming enough of, but yeah, let's see. I do have another question here on why do we get our appetite suppressed when we're on meds? So science behind this is lacking, but I can tell you some of the theories. Basically, if you didn't know, dopamine and norepinephrine actually impact our appetite. Crazy, right? Actually, almost every single neurotransmitter in our brains affects our appetite. So whenever we have dysregulation in them, we're going to have dysregulation in our appetite. So yeah, good stuff. Make sure that we have dopamine, but when we have too much dopamine, it could potentially make us not hungry. And that is the issue, right? Because we want to make sure we can function, but if we're not hungry, we can't function, and that's the bottom up aspect. We need to make sure we're fueled to have good enough stuff for our brains. But then the medication can be oh, we're fine. It pretends that we're fine, and then we don't eat anything, and that can actually make our ADHD worse. And then we feel like we need to up our medication, when in reality, all we need to do is make sure we're eating. So yeah. The other thing with it is that it could also help, right? Because it then bypasses a lot of our, it's specifically called a dopamine 1 receptor. And that one is the one for motivation. So it helps improve that receptor, stimulant medication. It's not like it doesn't specifically help it. It more like is a backwards way of helping it. Anyway, so that could then actually give us the motivation to cook. So it's like a double-edged sword. I personally am not on stims right now. I'm not on anything actually. And also, side question, I kind of want to do some series on like, I took X for 30 days and this is how it made me feel. Does that sound like a fun series? And if yes, like what ones do you think I should try? I'm open to anything. I was thinking actually doing a saffron one for 30 days, but I'd have to find like an ethical one and I just don't know where that one would be. But anyway, I was also thinking about doing this one called Get Dopa. They're sending me some to try, and so I was like, you know what, might as well just make a video out of that. I don't know, because I feel like I'm the perfect guinea pig because I don't have medication. I have not been medicated. And then, I don't know, I want to feel better. I do. And I can't feel better until I finally get my neuropsych evaluation, which I don't know when the heck that's going to be because that's how our system works. So I don't know. But yeah, if there are any ones you think I should try, I'd love to hear it because I don't know. I think it'd be fun to do that kind of series. Anyway, yeah, that was a tangent. But what were we talking about? We were talking about hunger and ADHD medication. That is one thing I am kind of like nervous about if I do start medication because I already have pretty shitty hunger cues, to be honest. I think I just said honest a lot right there. But like, I don't know. If you have ever tried a stim and it has improved your hunger, I think that'd be really helpful to hear. But I don't know. I probably will actually use one eventually when I get diagnosed, but we'll find out. Till then, we shall try different random things and see if it works for me. But other things to help hunger cues, because I know it's just really hard. I do have a free ebook actually on this. Y'all, if you don't have that, you just have to, I think I have it in the description. Yeah, I should have it in the description here. You don't sign up for my email list. You totally should though, because I send out some really fun stuff. But you have the option to sign up for it after I send you the free ebook. But it goes through a lot of different things to help if you have issues with eating, because that's my issue. Honestly, that's my biggest issue probably, because like, I don't know, for me, it's hard. Because I've never had binging before, and I know a lot of people with ADHD have binging. I think it's almost the same level of difficulty for ADHD. It's just like on a different end of the spectrum. So like for people who binge a lot, there is that aspect of, I just can't tell if I'm full or not, but also there's that part of the dopamine that's hitting differently, but also your brain is using dopamine differently. There's this thing called the hypothalamic location of appetite or something like that. I'd have to search for the actual words here. But in people with ADHD, that region of our brain is dysregulated. And it's where a lot of our dopamine is basically produced. So duh, it makes sense. But for some reason, for some people with ADHD, it makes them have more binging stuff. And then for me, and for a lot of other people, it's more of the, you just don't want to eat and you don't feel like eating and you forget about eating all the time. But I have a theory. Okay, hear me out. Because what I figured out from talking to a lot of people is that my specific one tends to also come with autism. So like people with ADHD tend to just have more of that like not binging at all and more of the just like unintentional restriction all the time, pretty much. Close to ARFID. If you don't know what ARFID, it's avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. It's not that, but it's really similar. And just notice that a lot of people with ADHD tend to err more on my end, and people more with like especially hyperactive / also more inattentive. So I don't know. It depends on whether your binging is more of the inattentive part or more of the eating for stimulation part. I don't know. It's really interesting, and I want to do a study on it, but I don't have money to do a study. I want to do a study on so many different things. I just hate that it costs money to do studies. You want to know something super stupid? It takes like about $3,000 to $6,000 to publish a study. Not just to do the study, but to be like, hey, here's my study that I did. Please accept it. Now I guess I have to pay for you to publish it. Isn't that so stupid? This is why I kind of hate academia, and I want to be in it at the same time, because like, wouldn't be publishing something would just be so cool. But yeah. Anyway, I think that was pretty much all my thoughts. But yeah. Do I have any other thoughts? Oh, let me read some of these comments here. Yes, going back to all that. Yes, hunger hormones with ADHD is not researched, unfortunately. We do have some interesting stuff with leptin specifically, which is one of the hunger hormones. But yeah, we don't have a lot of research yet. I really want to see research on GLP-1 levels in the brain and ADHD, because I'm like pretty sure that for like those people who have more of that binging aspect, they have those abnormal levels of GLP-1. And then, and I think it's going to be more GLP-1. Yes, it would be more. And then I'm pretty sure for the people who like have that, what I have, where it's so hard to eat because the act of eating is so hard. Like just bringing it up to my mouth, right? Like that is just so difficult sometimes. And also making food, stupid. I don't know. I wish I loved food. That's something I've been realizing that a lot of people have, and I just don't. But anyway, the theory that I have that I want to research, but I can't because it's expensive, is people more with the type that I was saying have lower levels of GLP-1. So one day, maybe, one day, I just want to study. I want to do research, but I cannot right now. One day. But yeah, if you want to have more resources, just go into the description and grab that. I think it was like ADHD eating hacks. It's just in the description. So that is what everything comes down to, though, isn't it? Money. I think it's stupid. Also, you know what I think is stupid? This is very much not ADHD related at all. But the fact that RFK Jr. fired literal people who understood vaccines and the vaccine research and basically was like, they're biased. They're experts. Like, I don't know. That kind of scares me a little bit with how just distrust in science is coming here a lot more than I thought it was going to. And so, like, if you can't trust scientists, like, we're supposed to be unbiased. Like, if you're saying, like, the fact that we know science is making us biased, like, that's nuts. Literally, like, my brain, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. Okay, anyway, this was super fun. Loved hanging out with all of you here. Thank you so much for chatting with me, because it's a lot more fun than me just chatting to the void. But next week, I'm going to try to do a little compilation of amen stuff on ADHD and then react to it with all of y'all. And I think it's gonna be really fun because he's kind of crazy for a lot of things. Okay, that was maybe a microaggression. Anyway, what was I gonna say instead? He says some things that we should not trust with ADHD, and I think it's gonna be really fun to debunk a lot of it with you. So, yes. Yes. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're not in the Discord, make sure you join the Discord. And again, every single link should be in the description. So, super fun. And I will chat with you next week.